Well, I've read your comments. I told you guys I read the comment section. I've seen everything that you said. You're saying that Henry Cejudo got me. Fine. Fine, but he only got me halfway. You guys are missing a point. Now, here's what we're talking about, guys, in case you're not part of the ecosystem and the community that is our comment section. Henry Cejudo has come out and said that he wanted to come back and fight, and he wanted to do it for a championship match. A lot of you said that he was just hustling, he was trying to gain attention, that he's going in different directions, he's on stage at a Yak Yak Shack doing comedy, he's just trying to keep focus on himself. And I said no. I spoke to Henry, I saw it in his eyes, and this was a true competitor. Now Henry has come out 1 week after not giving the Volkanovski fight. He's completely given up on that, completely given up on the 145-pound division, and has now inserted himself in a fictional fight against either Aljo or Petr Yan, but he's back at 135. I'm not sure you have enough evidence to say that I was suckered. And when I said I will only meet you halfway, I will meet you halfway that perhaps Henry is not going to pursue 145 pounds, but that Henry is going to come back. Now, before you call me a fool, hear me out on this. I don't know how bad Henry ever wanted to go through 145 pounds. I don't know how bad he ever wanted to go and become a contender, have an elimination match. I would estimate it a maximum of 2 and go in for the title. He wanted to be CCC, right? Which I think is 4 because I think the Olympics counts. But he wanted to win the championship at 45 to go along with the 35 and the 25-pound belt. So if you take that championship match away and he's just got to go through the ringer, in fairness to Henry, why not just do it at 135? Henry would not be very big for a 45-pounder. Henry was not a huge 25-pounder. He was good size. He had troublesome. 25 was hard, but just to put in perspective for you, when he won the Olympics, he did that at 121. So he moves up a couple of kilos. I'm only telling you he would have been small for 45, and you probably would have had to sweeten the pot just right to get him to go in there. And he told us what his terms were. World title, Volkanovski, great. But when he's told back that that can't happen, now we have to sit back and see what Henry's move is. If I was predicting for you, and I will admit I had this wrong, if I was predicting for you, my prediction would have been, he's going to say, okay, what's the path at 45? Do I go in there with Ortega? Do I go in there with Rodriguez? What gets me to get in there with the winner of Max Volkanovski? By example, I would have had that wrong. It now looks like he's going to 135, but even though I would have had that guess wrong, 135 is the right move. I would have had a little bit more clarity. I would have guessed 135. Now, Henry's saying for 135, and I see you guys giving me a hard time. See, I'm going to re-quote you back to yourself so that you know Uncle Chael's reading these comments. You're saying that Henry said he will fight Petr Yan and that he needs a whole bunch of money to do it because Henry said, and I'm quoting you, quoting him, his legacy is on the line. Now, that is a tough one to see. That is a tough one if you're a Henry fan. And I would go in the category, I'd like to see Henry fight. I think the sport's more fun when he's around. I think Henry got a lot of credit, but had a lot more coming and stepped aside too early. I do believe that. Where are we going to get him the money? You will never be paid for the risk that you're taking in this sport. Anywhere you go, any promotion, any way you want to do it. The damage, the hurt feelings, or the legacy. That does not have anything to do with the inflation to your price. You will always be rewarded for what you can bring in. Would Henry versus Yan be a main event of a pay-per-view? Not likely. Would Henry versus Aljo be a main event of a pay-per-view? Not likely. I'll ask it another way. Could Henry versus Yan sell out an arena? Because it's the same answer. Pay-per-views are all sold out, and that doesn't just happen because it's a PPV. The card is stacked, and the card is putting away for things that you guys want to see, that you truly want to see, that they're going to capture on camera and show around the world for the brand. No, probably not. Henry's in one tough spot. When I tell you Henry's in a tough spot, that means I am in a tough spot. Because I do want to see Henry fight, in all fairness. I do want to see Henry get in there with fresh competition, which Aljo and Yan represent, and everybody at 145 is brand new parity. I want to see that. My problem is Henry was champion and had something known as the championship clause. His last fight was at UFC 246. Going off of the estimates that Dave Meltzer put out for the pay-per-view predictions, and Dave is way off, but Dave's closer than other people. As off as Meltzer is, he is the closest. But going off of Dave's numbers of the projected pay-per-view buys and knowing what I know about championship clauses and Henry's contract specifically, Henry was sitting on a bonus of about $3 million. That's bonus. That's the whole thing's done. Go home, 30 days go by, all the numbers come in, this gets wired to your account. He's probably just south of that, but I'm close. Just in bonus. Plus his show, plus his win, plus his sponsors. It was a great day, which is why, for a moment in time, Henry said, I'm out. The first time you make that kind of money, you think that's going to last you a really long time. Now, Henry's life has changed. He got married by example. He has a child by example. So all of a sudden, you want to go back to work, right? All of a sudden, you cut your managers in, your trainers in, you do right by your team, you pay Uncle Sugar, known as the government, his cut. All of a sudden, that money isn't what you thought it was. In fact, it's just a little bit half of the big, beautiful number that you had. Okay, we get that. Henry's not the first to do that. But I'm only sharing with you that $3 million bonus came on the back of a gift, a generous act given to exclusively champions. So the moment Henry gave that belt back and they accepted it, that clause is gone, which means Henry falls back to his win and his show, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 180 grand both ways. Right around 180 show and 180 win. I have no idea. I've never asked Henry his business. I'm guessing, but I know this well, and I'm probably pretty close, and maybe even high. That's a lot of cake, Jake. 360 for a win, that's a lot of money. But it's not compared to 3.6 million. So Henry is now saying, I'll come back and I'll do it. My legacy is on the line. Henry is not wrong. His legacy is on the line. It just doesn't come with a value. For example, we're not going to sit down and go to buy that pay-per-view and everybody's going to pay more money for that pay-per-view than an average pay-per-view and we're all going to be okay with it because this is about a legacy. No, it doesn't work like that at all. Not even remotely close. And the two potential fights that he would have if he was able to come back and be given the respect of going right in for a championship run, the championship that he never lost. I like the storyline. I think it all works. I think he should get to come right in and at max be one away. Maximum, one away. To do that without the championship clause, it's going to be a very different contract. So if Henry is getting our hopes up and he's making a guy like me fall for it to the point that my own people, you guys, are teasing me for falling for it, if that is a caveat that has to be met, it's not going to be. But he's the one that gave it back. Nobody took it from him. Nobody defeated him for it. Nobody out-negotiated him. He gave it back. So what do you do? But what do you do? I'm just asking you guys for a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Am I truly the sucker that you guys are saying I am? And Henry has got no plan to come back. He's going into training. He's doing stand-up at the Yak Yak Shack. Is that what it is? And he's keeping his name out there? If so, I'll stop right there. I don't believe that. I really don't. I've looked in his eyes. I've known him for a long time. He wants to come back and compete. I slap him on the back. It's like touching a brick wall. I mean, he's in shape. He's in shape because he's training his ass off. He's not training his ass off just because this is a hobby. Do you know anybody that does MMA as a hobby? To that level, twice a day, in a gym, with professionals? Trainers and partners? No, come on. He's getting ready to do something. But we can't meet him there. We can't give him a clause that he personally gave back. We just can't. So what do we do? How do you make that right? And enough time can go by, well, he'll make it right on his own, right? We're seeing that with Jon Jones right now. Jon was sitting out or else he was standing up to the man. He was fighting for all the boys and girls in the back. He was doing everything. And then a little bit of time went by. Jon's bills kept coming in. No money was coming in. All of a sudden, where do I sign, right? That's okay, but are we going to do that with Henry? Because I think it's hot right now. Henry has done a better job than any champion that I have seen in retiring and keeping his names in the headlines. You guys want to argue that point? You want to tell me a former champion that's done as good of a job as Henry at staying topical and staying out there? But everything needs tweaked. Everything needs turned. I think we're seeing a turn right now. I think Henry has turned his attention off of 45 and Volkanovski specifically back to 135. And he's talking about championship opportunities. He's saying all of the right things. We just as the audience don't have clarity. Henry's got a little army out there, but we can't all point our cannons in the same direction when first he's saying turn them left and then he's saying turn them right. We got half going left, half going right. Now the message doesn't get out there. I need to have things a little bit clearer. And I will not fall for this. Again, he got me. I won't fall for it again. I just have to have an answer to one thing, which is this all come down to the money? He has the level of contract out there that exists right now. Is he willing to honor that contract, or is it going to be a different discussion? Because if it's going to be a different discussion, likely that conversation's never going to happen, and I'll stop. But if he's flexible and he wants to compete, and it's about competition first, if he wants to make it about championships and or legacy due to the success that he plans to find in there, that's a story we can get behind. So I'll give you guys 50%. Henry got me 50%. But I still think there's 50% left, which is there's still some dog left in Henry Cejudo, and he still wants a piece of that bone.